Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be chatting about key contractual provisions for the DORA Act. This has been brought to you by Vendifi, a vendor management system that can help you manage your DORA compliance and your third-party vendors. And so today we're going to be chatting about the key contractual provisions in the DORA Act. And these are quite important because obviously these contractual clauses need to be added to any one of your third party or your suppliers or vendors contracts. And so there are five main components of this, and I'm going to break it down for you in a as concise and easily managed way as possible. And so yes, let's get into it. I'm going to leave a link to the blog that goes into a little bit more detail, which then also has links to the actual articles, so you can get all the way in the weeds with this. This is of course educational, so if you do want to take this step further, please make sure to consult with your legal team, as I am just bringing you up to speed with what you kind of need to do. And so number one, it is the financial responsibility to create one single contract with the SLA attached in that one document. So you can't have 15 documents flying all over the place. You've got to have one with all the information that is required in this document that they're going to go into now, as well as the SLA in that agreement. And the document needs to be accessible to both you and the third party. So you need to be able to make that document available on the web somehow to the third party. And so, yeah, that's number one. Number two. Number two has got a number of provisions here all the way up to H and I. And so we're going to start here with number two. The contractual arrangements of the ICT services need to include the following. So the first part is straightforward description of all the functions of the ICT service provider they will offer. It should also say if they're going to subcontract and if any of those subcontracts are going to be critical services that you provide. B is fairly straightforward as well. You just need to tell us where in the world is the service provider providing the services from, where they're storing the data, where it will be processed, and if at any point in time it changes, you have to let them know. And C, the rules about making sure data is available, authentic, intact, and confidential, especially when it comes to protecting personal data. D, rules to ensure that both personal and non-personal data processed by the financial entity can be easily accessed, recovered, and returned to the ICT provider goes out of business or if the contract ends. E, description of service levels along with any updates and changes. F, the ICT provider must assist the financial entity at no extra cost and per agreed cost if the ICT incident related to the service occurs. If something happens, you're going to help us out. G, the service provider must fully cooperate with the authorities mentioned in Article 46 and the financial entity resolution authorities, including their appointed representative. So if anything goes on, you've got to 100% work it out with the authorities. H, termination rights and minimum notice periods for ending the contract in line with the authorities and what they expect. So no crazy cancellation dates like 3 years. I, the conditions for ICT providers to participate in the financial entity's ICT security awareness programs and digital operation resilience training as outlined. So you've got to train your third-party providers if needed. And so all of those items need to be in a standard SLA and contractual agreement. We move on to number three now, which is specifically designed for important functions and must include, along with the elements mentioned in paragraph 2, at least the following. So if a specific client or provider is more critical to the business, they need to have these additional clauses in the contract. 3 being a complete service level description, including updates with clear performance targets to help the financial entity effectively monitor ICT services and take timely corrective actions if the service levels aren't met. 3B, notice periods and reporting obligations for the ICT provider to the financial entity, including alerts about any changes that could affect the ability to deliver critical ICT services according to the agreed service levels. C, requirements for the ICT provider to implement and test business contingency plans, as well as have the security measures, tools, and policies that ensure adequate security for the financial entity services and compliance with the regulatory standards. Imagine that, having to check the actual backups work. D, the ICT provider must participate and fully cooperate in the financial entity's threat-led pen test. And so TLPT, threat-led pen testing, and so that has to happen every 3 years or so. So where are we now? We're at E. The right to continually monitor the ICT provider's performance, which includes the following: unrestricted rights for the financial entity and appointed third party and the competent authority to access, inspect, and audit, including taking copies of essential documentation on site, without limitation from other contracts or policies. You will let me on to your business, and I will have a look around, and I will take what I need. The right to negotiate alternative assurance levels if the rights of other clients are impacted. Interesting. And the ICT provider must fully cooperate during the on-site inspection and audits conducted by the competent authorities, the lead overseer, the financial entity, and the appointed third parties. So that's basically saying, I want to be able to come on site and have a look, and you can't stop me. And the obligation to provide detail on the scope, procedures, and frequency of these inspections and audits. There is a caveat to this, which is over here, which says basically you can get a third-party provider to do the audit on your behalf and provide those results. And so, yeah, just remember that. You've got to kind of provide that in the contractual agreement. But back to F and exit strategies. The exit strategy, specifically the requirement for mandatory transition period. So during which the ICT provider will continue delivering services to minimize disruption for the financial entity and ensure effective resolution and restructuring. And the other one is allowing the financial entity to switch to another ICT provider and transition to the in-house solutions that service complexity. So very clear cut. You've got to help us out if we're ending the agreement, and you can't leave us high and dry. And then finally, number 4, when negotiating contracts, the financial entities and ICT providers should consider using standard contractual clauses created by public authorities for specific services. So don't make up your own bits and pieces. And then the ESA's, the European Supervisory Authority, has put already together this document over here, which essentially says what you need to do in the instance of critical functions and subcontracting ICT services for critical functions. And it's simply go through this template and ask all of these questions to that third-party provider and get a description as well as evidence for all of the questions around this. So send this off to your third-party provider and get results on all of these specific questions, and this is the template provided. And so that's it. That's the main 5 reasons, 5 contractual requirements for the DORA Act, and I hope that this video has been enlightening. If you need help, Vendifi can do pretty much everything mentioned here. It can manage your contract. It can check to see your inherent and residual risk score of your vendors. It does a onboarding questionnaire for the vendors. It does a email and DNS scan. It does a domain scan. It checks to see what affected business processes you have the vendor a part of. It has a business impact criticality for the vendor, as well as what stage that vendor's on and what are the next stages. It has the renewal dates and the cancellation dates, and it's got a location for all of the correspondence as well as all the documents, which can then be shared because this is built on SharePoint. So 100% can be shared with that vendor. So go ahead and check out vendifi.io if you need help managing your third-party risk and your vendor management. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.